Hello, everyone. This video essay will highlight the profound impact of poetry and storytelling on the human experience. It will outline key ways in which they support expressive literacy within a culturally and linguistically diverse arts classroom or studio. During this course, there was one quote that stuck with me, so it felt appropriate to open this video essay with it. If I can help somebody as I travel along, if I can help somebody with a word or a song, if I can help somebody from doing wrong, then my living will not be in vain. This quote originally came from a song by Alma Biandrozo Thompson, but I first heard it from Sheila Arnold when she was performing Freedom Stories at the National Storytelling Festival. I found this entire video to be incredibly impactful, and it clearly states the importance of storytelling, which was an excellent segue into our next slide, which is why stories and poetry matter. So we'll start from a developmental standpoint. As a kindergarten teacher, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of talking to your children. It could be a made up story, it could be talking about your day at the dinner table, it could be you narrating what you're doing while shopping with them at the grocery store. This is crucial for a child's language development, comprehension skills, verbal reasoning, vocabulary acquisition, the list goes on. Denise Augusto notes that storytelling can benefit a child's visualization, cognitive engagement, critical thinking, and story sequencing. When caregivers prioritize storytelling with their children, they come to school with an astounding advantage in their early literacy and reading skills. As stated by Kate DiCamillo on the magic of reading aloud from the PBS NewsHour, people of all ages love to be read to. Reading books aloud to young children models fluency, intonation, and concepts of print. Stories and poetry also matter for a variety of culturally and historic reasons. Stories carry with them history, life lessons, new knowledge, and the opportunity to gain a deeper understanding of another human experience. This insight into a different way of being, a valid life experience, teaches empathy and allows for a dialogue to be had, not from judgment or criticism, but from curiosity and a desire to connect. Stories help and heal. They remind us that every voice has value and that sharing our stories truthfully and courageously can change hearts, preserve history, and inspire a more compassionate future. No matter where a student is on their literacy journey, they all have a story to tell. Stories are accessible to everyone. So, moving into the first activity, this is designed more for students pre-K to second grade, but could easily be modified to fit the needs of an older student. The teacher would select a poem from the poetry playground. They could, of course, find their own poems, but the poetry playground is a collection I've curated to meet the social and emotional needs of my students. After reading the poem, the class will discuss how the speaker was feeling, why they were feeling that way, and how we can tell. If students are older, you might want to dive into the author's use of poetry tools, such as metaphor, imagery, or music to convey emotion. This activity allows young children to connect with poems and characters in stories and relate it to their personal lives. So in the worksheet, you'll see it says the speaker felt blank, and they'll be able to cut and glue. So it's practicing some skills that are pre writing. And then I feel the same when, and then they'll be able to draw a picture from their own experience of when they felt the same way the speaker in the story did. This activity allows young children to connect with poems and characters in stories and relate it to their personal lives. After they draw about their experience, they will be tasked with creating a one line poem to describe their picture and reading it in a tone that conveys the emotion. So, the example might be a student draws themselves opening a present because the emotion is excited. They would exclaim, "I got a new race car!" We can discuss how the tone of our voice changes when the emotion changes. In the middle, you'll see our classroom puppet, Wally. He is often there to give non examples. So he might read the sentence, "I got a new race car," in a somber voice, and the students might talk about why Wally read it that way or why it might not work in the context of this story. Moving into the second activity, this activity is geared towards older students. It works really well if they're performing in a musical or a play. Excuse me. It could help further connect them with the characters they're portraying. Each character from a play, movie, or show that the class is familiar with would be written on a piece of paper and tossed into a hat. Then the poetry tools, metaphor, imagery, and music, mentioned as a modification in the last activity, would be written multiple times and tossed into a separate hat. The students would have to pick one character and one poetry tool each, while keeping it a secret from their classmates. They would then write a short poem about the character without using their name, while using the poetry tool that they pulled. For example, if someone pulled Mary Poppins and metaphor, they might write, "Her umbrella cuts through the gusty night sky like a knife. Practically perfect, she is sugar, cake, warmth, and light." The students would then read their poems, and their classmates would have to guess the character they wrote about, as well as the poetry tool they used. This activity allows students to practice poetry tools and speaking in front of peers in a low stress environment. Lauren Barak, author of Spoken Word Poetry Raises Student Voice, Literacy, and Confidence, notes that spoken word poetry helps students build their self confidence. In the end, students not only sharpen their poetic craft, but also learn to step boldly into performance with the joy and confidence that spoken word poetry inspires. While journaling throughout this semester, there's one quote that I've gone back to quite often when I begin to feel stuck or lose sight of my why. It's from the course reading Awakening of the Heart by Georgia Hurd, and it reads, quote, "All of us are hungry to express our true selves, to be reunited with our hearts. And this is the real work of teaching and exploring poetry." As we guide students through storytelling and poetry, we're not just teaching craft, we're giving them space to find their voice. Thank you.